Welcome to Beyond the Pages, where the right book can like totally change everything.
Mhm.
You know that feeling of being stuck with like the worst customer service ever?
Ugh, it's the absolute worst.
It is, but then you have those places, those businesses that just get it right, and they make you feel so good. And that's what we're diving into today with Unreasonable Hospitality by Will Guidara.
Oh, yeah, he's the guy who helped make 11 Madison Park one of the top restaurants in the world, right?
Exactly. And this book is amazing. It might just change your whole perspective on like creating an unforgettable experience for literally anyone, anywhere.
That's a big promise, but I mean, hospitality is a pretty powerful concept when you think about it.
For sure. And Godard really gets you thinking about that right from the start.
Mm.
He shares this story about his 12th birthday dinner at the Four Seasons.
Oh, I love that story.
Me too. Even as a kid, he was just blown away by like the whole experience,
Mm.
the ambiance, the food, just that feeling of being totally taken care of.
Yeah, like someone's really got your back.
Exactly. It was like a seed was planted or something.
It's amazing how these little moments can shape our whole outlook, you know?
Totally. And what's interesting is that this fascination with hospitality developed during a pretty tough time in his life.
Oh, right. His mom was battling brain cancer.
Yeah. And even while she was going through all of that, she made a point to be there for him every day after school.
Yeah.
She'd be waiting at the end of the driveway.
That's powerful. Even amidst her own struggles, she found a way to make him feel seen and welcomed.
It shows how much those little gestures can mean.
It's not about grand gestures, really. It's about just showing up for someone.
So true.
Yeah.
Now, his dad was kind of skeptical of his decision to go to Cornell School of Hotel Administration.
Really, I can see why a parent might want their child to explore a wider range of options, not just limit themselves to restaurants.
Yeah, his dad was like, why would you pigeonhole yourself so early?
That makes sense.
But at the same time, his dad believed in learning the right way to do things, like starting at the top and then adapting those skills later,
That's an interesting approach. It's like laying a really solid foundation.
right? And then building on it.
I like that analogy.
And you can totally see that philosophy reflected in Godard's early work experiences.
Oh, yeah, he worked all over the place, right?
He did Baskin Robbins, Ruth's, Chris Steakhouse,
Mhm.
Wolfgang Puck's Spago, you name it.
He really got a taste of everything.
He did. And each job was a chance to observe and learn something new about the industry.
Like different leadership styles, different ways of doing things.
Exactly. And it was at Tabla, working under Chef Floyd Cardoz, where he learned this really crucial lesson about enthusiasm.
From Cardoz?
Actually, it was from his manager, Randy Grudy. This guy had like the most contagious energy ever.
What was his secret?
He had this saying, I'm trying to make today the best day of my life. And he really meant it.
Wow, talk about setting the tone.
Right. It's like that leader's attitude totally trickles down to the whole team.
You can't help but feel inspired.
And this focus on creating a positive environment was even further reinforced by Danny Meyer's concept of enlightened hospitality, which Guidara also encountered at Tabla.
Oh, Danny Meyer, he's like a legend in the industry.
He is, and his approach is all about putting your employees first.
Which is interesting because you might think it would be customers first.
Right, but Meyer's philosophy is that if you take care of your team, they'll take care of your customers.
Makes sense. Happy employees lead to happy customers.
Exactly, and it goes beyond that too. Enlightened hospitality also emphasizes the importance of community suppliers and even investors, but they come last.
Wow, so it's like a whole ecosystem.
It is, and it's about creating a sustainable business where everyone thrives.
I love that idea.
And one of the most fascinating takeaways from Meyer's approach is this concept of the charitable assumption.
What's that?
It's this idea that when someone's being difficult, you assume there's a reason behind their behavior.
Instead of just getting defensive.
Right. It's about giving people the benefit of the doubt.
I like that. It encourages empathy and understanding.
It does, and it can really help de-escalate tense situations.
Makes you think about how we approach difficult conversations in our own lives, too.
For sure. Now, while Godard was all in on this people-centric approach, his dad, the pragmatist, wanted him to get some experience in a bigger organization too.
To learn the ropes of corporate structure.
Exactly. And he introduced this concept of restaurant smart versus corporate smart.
Interesting. What's the difference?
Well, restaurant smart is like that hands-on intuitive knowledge of running a restaurant, like being in the trenches.
Got it. And corporate smart.
It's more about navigating systems, processes, the financial side of things.
Ah, I see.
And Godard decided to pursue that corporate smart edge by taking a position at the Modern.
Oh, wow. Danny Meyer's more formal restaurant at the Museum of Modern Art.
That's the why.
Quite a change of pace from Tabla.
It was a huge learning curve. He was suddenly immersed in spreadsheets, financial reports, all that fun stuff.
That's a different world.
It is, but he took it all in. He was determined to master both sides of the industry.
That's impressive.
And it was at the Modern Museum where he also encountered some of the downsides of corporate culture.
Oh, wow.
Well, he had this situation with an underperforming employee who he decided to let go. But then HR reversed his decision without even consulting him.
Ouch, that's going to be frustrating.
It made him realize that even with the best intentions, those corporate policies can sometimes backfire.
It highlights the importance of communication and collaboration, making sure everyone's on the same page.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But despite those challenges, Guidara learned a ton at the Modern Basement. He honed those corporate smart skills while still holding on to his passion for hospitality.
That's a tough balance to strike.
It is. And then came 11 Madison Park.
The turning point.
This is a story of ambition, dedication, relentless pursuit of excellence.
I can't wait to hear how it all unfolded. All right, so 11 Madison Park. This is where it all comes together, right?
It does. And Guidara's approach was really interesting. Right off the bat, he did something you don't often see in the restaurant world.
Okay, what's that?
He has a strategic planning meeting with the entire staff.
Wow, that's unusual.
He wanted everyone to be a part of defining the restaurant's core values.
Smart move. You got to get buy-in from the team.
Exactly. And they came up with 4 core values: education, passion, excellence, and hospitality.
Okay, so 2 of those, education and passion, seem like no-brainers for a team like that.
Right. They were given, but it was the interplay between excellence and hospitality that got really interesting.
Yeah, there's that tension again. The pursuit of perfection versus the warmth of genuine connection.
And they were determined to find a way to make both work.
To have their cake and eat it too.
Exactly. And that's what led them to embrace what Guidara calls integrative thinking.
Okay, I gotta admit that term kind of threw me off a bit. What does integrative thinking actually mean?
So it's this idea that sometimes the best solutions come from embracing those conflicting goals. Figuring out how to achieve both.
Instead of compromising.
Right. You find a way to integrate those seemingly opposing forces.
So in this case, it's about finding a way to deliver a 4-star dining experience without sacrificing that feeling of genuine warmth and hospitality.
You get it. It's not an either-or situation.
It's about finding the
And you can see this integrative thinking in action through some of the practices they implemented at 11 Madison Park.
Like what?
Well, for example, they had this thing called the Critic of the Night table.
Critic of the night table. Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
So basically, each night, they'd randomly select one table and treat them as if they were the restaurant critic from the New York Times.
Wow, talk about pressure.
Right. The staff would pay meticulous attention to every detail for that table.
Yeah, I guess that's one way to keep those standards high.
But it wasn't just about impressing the critic. It was about creating that exceptional experience for every guest every night.
So that every diner feels like they could be the critic.
Exactly. They wanted everyone to feel like they were the most important person in the room.
That's a powerful mindset shift.
It is, and alongside this pursuit of excellence, they were also finding ways to enhance those little moments of connection.
Okay, give me an example.
So they developed this system of water hand signals.
Wire hand signal.
Yeah, the servers could discreetly communicate a guest's preference for still or sparkling water without interrupting the conversation.
Oh, that's clever.
Right? Those little subtle details that make a big difference.
It's all about anticipating needs.
And they did this other interesting thing with the placement of the plates. They always made sure the manufacturer's stamp was facing the diner.
Seems a bit excessive, doesn't it?
Maybe. But Guidara says it was about instilling a sense of intentionality in every action, no matter how small.
Like a subtle message that they've thought of everything.
And all this effort paid off big time. In August of 2009, Frank Bruni, the restaurant critic for the New York Times, gave 11 Madison Park 4 stars.
Wow, that's huge.
It is the defining moment for the restaurant. And Bruni's review really captured their evolution. He said he had fallen in love gradually, not all at once.
That's beautiful.
He talked about how the restaurant had transformed from an improved excellent restaurant to making yet another unnecessary advance.
I love that line, yet another unnecessary advance. It speaks to their commitment to constantly pushing the boundaries.
They were always striving for more. But even with 4 stars, they didn't rest on their laurels. They knew they had to maintain that level of excellence while also staying true to their unique identity.
Right, because 4 stars can also come with certain expectations.
And that's where things got even more interesting. They realized that the very things that had helped them achieve 4 stars, that ease and informality, that youthful energy, could also be perceived as a liability in the world of fine dining.
It's like a double-edged sword.
And they had to figure out how to balance their desire to be approachable and fun with those expectations that came with a 4-star rating.
Okay, so how did they pull that off?
Well, they decided to double down on their commitment to creating what they called legends.
Legends, what are those?
Those personalized, over-the-top experiences that went above and beyond to delight their guests.
Okay, I'm starting to get a sense of what you mean, but give me an example.
It all started with that street hot dog. Remember, Will overheard a table saying they'd eaten everything in New York City except a street hot dog.
Oh, yeah, and he ran out and got one for them.
Exactly. That simple act of kindness sparked a whole movement within the restaurant.
It's those little things that people remember.
And from there, they started brainstorming all sorts of crazy ideas. They partnered with Tiffany to create custom champagne flutes for couples who got engaged at the restaurant. They sent a DVD of a movie to a table that had been reminiscing about an old film they loved.
Wow, talk about going the extra mile.
They even turned their private dining room into a makeshift beach for a couple whose vacation had been canceled.
Oh, wait, that's amazing.
They were determined to make every experience unforgettable.
But I imagine all of this was pretty expensive to maintain.
But for sure, they were definitely walking a financial tightrope.
So how did they balance those big dreams with the reality of running a business?
Well, that's a story for another time. Okay, so we left off with 11 Madison Park facing this challenge of how to make those legends financially sustainable.
Right. It's a tough balance wanting to wow your customers, but also, keeping the lights on.
Exactly. And they knew those over-the-top gestures were costing them a pretty penny. So they started by getting really granular with their expenses.
Like penny pinching.
Kinda. They look
Yeah.
at everything, supplier deals, inventory management, all those little things that can add up.
It's like finding those hidden leaks.
And what's interesting is that Guidara actually kept detailed journals of their expenses.
Really, like tracking every penny.
He did something he learned from his dad. He said it helped him stay grounded and really understand the financial realities of the business.
That makes sense. It's easy to lose sight of those day-to-day costs when you're caught up in the big vision.
Right. And it also helped him empathize with the staff who were dealing with those costs on a daily basis.
So it wasn't just about saving money. It was about understanding the impact of those decisions.
Exactly. Now, alongside these cost-saving measures, they also came up with creative ways to generate revenue.
Okay, like what?
Well, they started hosting these incredible themed events, like their Kentucky Derby party.
Oh, yeah, I heard about that. It was legendary.
It was a huge hit, and it brought in a significant amount of income.
Smart move. It's about tapping into those special occasions. People are willing to splurge for a unique experience.
And it also helped transform 11 Madison Park into a destination, a place where people wanted to be.
Not just for the food, but for the whole vibe.
Exactly. But amidst all this success, they faced another challenge, staying true to themselves.
I can see that it would be easy to get caught up in the hype and lose sight of what made them special in the first place.
They were determined not to become stuffy or pretentious, like some 4-star restaurants can be.
Right, they wanted to keep that warmth and personality.
So they started incorporating even more playfulness into the dining experience, like having the kitchen staff deliver certain dishes in their white jackets.
Oh, that's fun, breaking down those barriers between the front of house and the back of house.
And they encouraged the staff to interact more with the guests, kneeling tableside when describing a dish.
It's those little touches that make a difference.
And to really solidify their commitment to Unreasonable Hospitality, they expanded their Dreamweaver team from 1 person to 4.
Wow, they were serious about those legends.
But even with all this success, Guidara started to realize he was facing a personal challenge.
Okay, what was that?
He had become so involved in every detail of 11 Madison Park that he was basically irreplaceable.
Oh, I see. He was a bottleneck.
He wasn't giving his team the space to grow and take ownership.
It's a common trap for passionate leaders, wanting to control everything.
And thankfully, he had a mentor, Cheryl, who called him out on it.
What did she say?
She told him point blank, "You're holding yourself back, and by doing so, you're holding back your team."
Oof, tough love, but sometimes that's what you need.
It was a wake-up call for Guidara. He realized he needed to step back and trust his team.
Easier said than done.
It was.
Yeah.
But he made the decision to promote Kirk Kellaway, who had been running their beverage program, to the position of general manager.
Wow, big promotion.
And you know what? Kirk wasn't even sure he was ready for the role.
But Guidara saw his potential.
He did, and it taught him a valuable lesson. Sometimes the best time to promote someone is before they feel fully prepared.
It's about pushing people outside their comfort zones, giving them the opportunity to rise to the occasion.
And that's really what Guidara's whole journey is about. It's about embracing those challenges,
Mm.
taking those leaps of faith, and creating something truly extraordinary.
And it all comes back to that idea of unreasonable hospitality.
Right, it's not just about restaurants. It's about bringing that same level of care and attention to detail to everything you do.
It's a philosophy for life.
It is, and it's something we can all learn from.
Absolutely. It's about making those small gestures that make people feel seen and valued.
It's about going above and beyond, not because you have to, but because you want to.
And who benefits most from this approach?
Everyone. The customer who feels like a VIP, the employee who feels empowered, and the business that thrives on creating those positive connections.
It's a win-win-win.
Exactly. And if you're feeling inspired to bring a little more unreasonable hospitality into your own life or work, I highly recommend checking out Will Guidara's book.
It's a game changer.
And of course, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more deep dives into books that can change everything.
Thanks for joining us.
See you next time.